So today's session, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a password from the user, and then I will check the length of the password. And if the length of the password is less than 8, I'm going to say it's a weak password. Otherwise, I'm going to say strong password, right? So let me share the scratch. Right. Now here is what we are going to do. We are going to get something from the user, right? That means we are going to ask something. So you are going to ask, and whatever you enters here will be stored in variable answer, right? So here we have answer. So now I have entered the Pahana as the input, and when I take the answer, you will get that output. So that means we can get to know. Now instead of this one, we are going to ask a password, right? So I'm going to say, okay, enter password. Right, I'm going to ask a password, so I will put some characters. Right, so that's the answer. Right, that's the answer we are getting. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to get the length of this one. Right, now for example, this length operator. Now here we have Apple. If you click, it says 5. If you just say, let's say 3 characters, right, it says 3. So which means if you put this answer inside the length, we still gets the number of characters. Interesting, isn't it? Now let me run this again. This time I'm going to put this, right, and then I'm going to input it. Now when I say length answer, it says 4. So simply what I could do is I can select a if case. And if I can check the number of characters, if it is less than 8, if it is less than 8, I can ask this. So I can check. Yes, true. It's less than 8. Let's run again. Now this time I'm going to take a little bit longer one. So now if I check, it says, all right, I didn't enter. It says false. Now what I'm going to do, if it is less than 8, we want to say different thing, right? I want to say, okay, whatever your password is a weaker one. So we can say weak password. Right. The other one I can say, okay, no. If it is greater than 8 or greater than 8, we can say it's a strong. Right now, if I connect these two, right, we can get the password. Let me put a shorter one. When I press enter, so it says weak password. Again, if I click it here, let me add a better password. It says strong password. Right. Okay. I think sometimes when you want to understand, putting everything inside this might not work. So I'm going to take this out. And then I would like to create a variable for this. I'm going to create a variable only for this sprite, right? So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say, okay, number of characters. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set number of characters to this length. By doing so, it's very easy for us to work with. Now, instead of that putting here, we can just get number of characters, we can put it here. Same thing I did, right? One additional step, but it's more clear now. We know how we got the number of characters. And we check whether the number of characters are less than 8, right? Now let's finalize this one. We will finalize. Right? We have finalized this. Now when you click it, it'll ask enter password. So I can put a password, and when I press enter, it will say strong password. Okay, so I want you to also try this. Shall we start? So this part we are going to look at the development of snake and ladder game. And this is one of the examples that I developed for multiplayer one. In this one, what happens, randomly for each player, it will select a value. And with that ball value, you can see this, the position will change. And I hope that this first value actually you see for the first ball, but there are several balls I have put it here, right? So let's start from the beginning just to see how this works. Now we need to toss the dice, and then based on the value we need to move. And then when there's a ladder, you have to go up. When there's a snake head, then you need to go down, right? So that's how it works. But whenever one wins, actually I have stopped the script. This is a bit advanced one. We actually use move. That means ball will move through the background. So I put a background. So background is my board, and these balls are this pirate. We actually move on the front. But in your case, we are going to do is very small way, not complex like this. But I think if you think a lot, you can extend to version like this, right? So I want you to think about this for the time being, but we will look at what we have given in the book, just simply to get an idea like what we should do using the control structures. In this particular case, we are using a lot of if else, right? Now, for example, when ball is moving from one position to another position, if there's a ladder, you have to go up. If there's snake, you have to go down. So everything we need to implement using if and else, right? So let's move on back to scratch, and I will open up a new one, and I will explain briefly what should we do. Now what I'm going to give you is what is available in the book, just the basic idea how we should play, right? For example, we need to start tossing the dice. We need to get a number, isn't it? Right? So we will say, okay, toss the dice. So we will start with that one first. We are going to say, okay, toss the dice. So I'm going to say, okay, toss the dice. Right? So when I click this, what might happen? So it just say toss the dice. Now we need a way to do this physically. So maybe you can toss the dice physically and then you can manually enter the value, right? So you can ask, okay, what is the value, right? You toss the dice, right? What is the value? What is the value of the upward face of the dice? Simply you can ask like this, isn't it? And you wait for that. You say toss the dice. Okay, you ask what is the face value? Okay, you got the idea, right? Now we are getting the answer. Will better to store in somewhere. So I'm going to create a variable. So this is I'm going to create only for this sprite. So I'm going to say value. The value I'm going to use, right? This value I'm going to use to store the value, right? So I can say set the value to what, right? To whatever the value you enter, that means should be the answer, isn't it? So we need to get answer for here. So I can put answer. Right. Now let's see what will happen. Now value is here, right? We click it. It says toss the dice. It allows me to enter some value. So let me say I got 6. I press enter, that's all. And set value to the answer. Okay. Let's start from the beginning. We'll click it, toss the dice. You get the value. I'm going to say 3 this time. Press, then you will say it's 3, right? So it's working. So whenever you get a value, you have to move forward, isn't it? You have to move forward. Let's say if you get 3, if I in the beginning, you have to move 3 positions, isn't it? You have to move forward. Simple as that. So we just say this, right? Actually, we have to do something right now for the time being. We will just say that, okay, move forward. So we will just say is move forward. So how do you say? So I'm going to say looks. I'm going to just say, what are you going to say? Okay, value, that you have now value. You have to move that one, right? So I can say with the join operation. So I'm going to use join. So I'm going to use join here. So what I'm going to join, I'm going to join with the value one side and then move the counter forward. So you have to have some counter to do this. So you are going to say, okay, move this. So I will put 4. Now simply if we rerun this, it will say toss the dice and then it will ask what is the value. Let me say 2 this time. I'd say, okay, 2, move forward. So we have to put multiple values. So I'm going to put a space here so that if I rerun it, toss the dice. Okay, this time I will put 5. 5, move forward. So we have to move forward the counter by 5, simply that one. Now, once you put in that one, then now you have to decide whether it's a ladder or whether it's a snake, whether there are any. If that is the case, you have to change the value, isn't it? So you have to ask this. So how do you ask? So I'm going to ask, right? Did it land at the bottom of the ladder. Yes, of a ladder. Did it land at the bottom of a ladder? Right? Because if that is the case, we have to do something, isn't it? What do you have to do? Right. So if it is yes, then you have to do something. If it is no, then you don't have to do anything. So we have to check the answer now, the question answer. So I'm going to check it, right? If it is equal, that means my answer. I take the answer. And if the answer is yes, if the answer is yes, then I have to say, okay, go to the top of the ladder. So what I have to say is, okay, you have to say, okay, go to the top. Move the counter up to the top of the ladder. So we have to move the counter up to the ladder, up to the top of the ladder. Right. Then you have to ask whether it's the head of the snake. So simple capital matters here for the answer. So in the book it says capital Y, so I will put it the same, but simple I, it might take and do different values, right? So let me duplicate this. Now this time, what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask, did it land on the head of a snake? Land on the head of a snake. If it is yes, then we can say, okay, slide down to the bottom of the snake. These are some messages that I'm actually putting it, right? So if I run it, so let me stop. We start from the beginning. Okay, toss the dice. The value, let me say it's 1. Okay, so 1, move counter forward. It will go to forward. Now ask, did it land to the bottom of a ladder? Let me say no. Then it's asked, did it land on the head of a snake? Let me say yes. So it says slide down the bottom of the ladder, snake. Interesting, isn't it? If I rerun it again, right? So you look at it. We start from the beginning, toss the dice. Let's say this time is 5. So it says, okay, move 5 forward. Then we start at the bottom of the ladder. I'm going to say yes. move the counter to the head of the string. Okay, it lost another one. So remember that it could happen only going up or going down, not both. So because of that, we can say, okay, we need to stop the script. So simply you can go we have to go for control, and then we have to stop the script. So if you go top, right, we can say this script. If I get the duplicate again, yeah, we can say, okay, finish this script. Now if I rerun again, right, so the dice, let me say 4. Yes, move top. Did you land the bottom of a ladder? Let me say yes, and that's all. So to finish this one, we'll have the event. You can put this. Right. So I want you to also to implement this one, and then let me know whether you have finished. So then I can move to the next one.
Yes, sir.
So let's start create a program for this one. And once you finish, we'll see how we could do in Scratch. So in this activity, we have to get team A score and team B score, and you need to compare. If A score greater than B score, you know what to print. If A is less than B score, you know what to print, right? If both cases are not greater than or less than, then we know that the match should be drawn, right? So let's start developing the Scratch program. So we have to perform activity 4.3. We have to get scores of team A and B. So we can first get the marks. Scores of team A, right? So maybe I can create a variable, right? Score is score A, right? So then I'm going to set score A to the answer. So I know what is. So similar thing I'm going to do for team B as well. But I need to create a variable B. So I'm going to make a variable score B, right? Okay. Now I'm going to change this to score B. So I have score and score B. Right? I need these two because we have only one answer. Now we can have if statement, right? So let's have the if. What you should ask. Now you have to ask first the comparison. What was the comparison that you have to make? Score A, right? You have to ask whether score A is greater than score B, isn't it? So you have to ask this. If score A is greater than score B, who wins? Yes, who wins? So we can say that, okay, A wins, isn't it? I will take a duplicate. Now, if it is the other way around, What do you mean by other way around? If score A is less than score B, then we know that B should be win, right? Isn't it? Here A wins, here B wins. If not, we know that, right? We have to say that, okay, match is drawn. Okay. So that's what we need to put. This is not the correct answer. I need like slight improvement. So we can start now, right? We can ask team 1 score, let's say 50. Team B score, let me put 30. It says A wins, then it's match drawn. No, you can't do both, right? What should I do now? We have to say stop this script, right? Similarly, B stops, we have to say stop this script. If not, it will go for this. Right, let me run now. Score A, it's 50. Score B is 30. We know that A wins, that's all. Let me run again. Score of A, let's say 45. Score B, let's say 65. Then it should say B win. If I rerun it, let's say 50 for the first one and 50 for the second one, then it will say match drawn. Right. If you want, I will give you a couple of minutes to take in down this one.